let me also press the record button. There it is. Take it away, Uzoma.
Okay, hi everyone. Like Kaylin mentioned, I'm Uzoma. I'm a user experience writer, and I'm the editor of UX Writers Learn. It's a blog, more or less like a blog that I started when I tried to get into user experience writing, but didn't quite have the resources then to take a course or any of the workshops. So I read a ton of articles, reached out to a lot of people, and I was able to put that together and share with the community. So today, let me show my screen. Yeah. So today, we'll basically be looking at the fundamentals of user experience writing and how to utilize the user journey to guide effective copy. Okay, so we'll start with UX writing basics, UX principles in UX writing, how to apply the user journey map in UX writing, and then we'll conclude and wrap up from there. So for the UX writing basics, we'll be taking a quick dive into definition, principles, voice, and tone. User experience writing, first of all, is based off user experience, which is what makes it different from other forms of writing, such as copywriting or technical writing. And user experience, according to usability.gov, says that user experience writing refers to the quality of the user's interaction with and perceptions of a system. And this could be within an app or a website. User experience writing itself is the practice of crafting all of the customer-facing text or copy that appears within digital products, according to Bobby Wood, the co-founder of UX Content Collective. But UX writing, as we know, is much more than just the words. It includes what people hear in cases like voice user experiences, like with Alexa, with smart homes. So user experience writing encapsulates everything that has to do with the digital communication between a product and its users. And UX writing rule also goes further than just crafting the customer-facing text. It also includes following design principles to advocate for users throughout the entire process of developing products. So in visible UX writing, we can see error messages, website cookies, button text, onboarding messages, website text. All these are examples of the visible microcopy that we can see. Now, when it comes to principles of UX writing, we can summarize them into 3 core roles, commonly known as the 3 C's of user experience writing. Your copy has to be clear. You don't make users think hard to understand what you're trying to communicate across to them. Your copy has to be concise. Use as few words as possible without losing the fundamental meaning. Your copy has to be consistent. This is maintaining the same communication style that your product uses across all its communication channels, including its branding voice, the way it speaks to people through newsletters, its branding messages, its adverts. Your copy has to be in line with the entire copy voice of the brand, sorry. Yeah, then the next one is clarity. To write clear copy, you need to speak your user's language, and this depends on your target audience. You use words that they are familiar with and can easily understand. And in cases where you have multiple user groups, you use the simplest words possible that everyone can relate to. In writing clear copy, you also prioritize clarity over personality. There are instances where you need to be straight to the point and clear. And even in areas where you can let your personality shine, if your, let's say, humor or wit, is it something that can be easily understood at a glance? It's best to go with plain language, because the core behind every user experience writing process is communication. You need to be able to communicate to users. Now, clear copy also involves providing enough information about the product, service, or process. Your copy can be unclear, if you don't give users enough context to guide them to carry out the action which they need to achieve their goals. Then the next principle is concise. Your copy has to be concise. Unlike actual space, the space that we work with is finite. So you have to maximize, every real estate you have. Every single word should serve a purpose, and you do this by writing in active voice. This helps, cut down on double negatives, shorten your sentences. You can also use progressive disclosure mechanisms like tooltips to help you include context and extra information users may need to know without overwhelming them with so much information at a glance. For example, in the picture above, we have users are supposed to fill in, their barcode. And there's a tooltip that's titled, "What's this?" This then explains, where the barcode can be found and what it's about. So like by maximizing your tooltips, you're able to also provide information without overwhelming users. Then you also utilize other elements to communicate with your users, such as visuals and sound. UX writing, doesn't exist in a bubble. You have to collaborate with visual designers, UX designers, researchers, and whatnot. And, every word on the screen works with different elements that people see in order to pass across the message. So for example, we're trying to, let users enter their passcode in order to log in. We have, a random sentence. You must enter your 6-digit passcode in order to log in. Users need 6 digits. The 6 digits is very particular. You need them to be able to log in. We cut down the passive voice, returning into active voice. We have enter your 6-digit passcode. But then you can also use the elements of visual design to communicate the fact that it is 6 digits that are needed. As we can see in the picture beside it, we have 6 dashes to communicate to that effect. So you can just go with enter your passcode. This way, you've made your copy concise, and yet you still pass across the core idea needed, the core message they need in order to move to the next step. Then your copy needs to be consistent. Consistency minimizes confusion, it builds trust because what you say at every different point in time is consistent. What you say is the same. For example, let's look at the picture below. We have add to cart. Users, a retail website, you want them to add to cart. The icon above is also saying cart. In some instances, we can put add to bag and the icon saying cart. Even though they are synonyms, the fact that they're different, could bring up some confusion to users. Then to be consistent, we also need to maintain generally accepted terms, especially when labeling icons. Sometimes we might want to be disruptive in our copy, be unconventional, try to rename things just to be different. But generally accepted terms, especially for popular icons or popular labels, like the menu icon, or when you think of the profile icon, if you rename such, it could cause users to hesitate because they don't exactly know what to expect. It's different from what they would have expected. And this, causes friction. And user experience is all about minimizing friction, removing as much friction as necessary to help users go through a smooth user experience while using your app. So to also be consistent, you need to work with style guides. These style guides guide you on your brand voice. It leads you to know what to write, how to write it. Okay, we have different forms of English. We have UK English. We also have US English. It helps keep you consistent. I know British English, they have you in some cases, maybe they're spelling color, you have you in it. American, you don't have. So to kind of keep your work together to ensure that all your spellings at every point in time is consistent, you need your style guide. And sometimes the UX writer is actually responsible for coming up with the style guides that the company uses. So we're moving to voice and tone. Now this, deals with how we present our words to people. It's not necessarily what you said, it's how you said it. They communicate to users how we feel about them, and it can ultimately determine how users feel about us. What do you make them feel when they see your brand, when they see your product? The voice. Every memorable digital product has a personality, and this is conveyed through that voice. It represents the company or brand. Therefore, it should remain consistent across the entirety of a given digital product experience. Most of the time, the voice that we use in UX writing is often gotten from, the research already done by, let's say, the branding team. or the marketing team, they've already come up with a particular voice that the company uses to communicate with people. So it's left to us to follow that voice. And in situations, rare situations, maybe you're dealing with you're working with a small company where they don't necessarily have UX researchers, or your branding team may not have carried out such a task. You as a UX writer can actually define the voice for your product. In this case, you need to know, okay, what are the company's visions, its missions, its objectives? How do you think the company sounds? If you already have existing users, you can easily reach out to them, maybe by sending questionnaires or surveys. What perception of your products do they already have? What do you want the company to sound like? You think of the company, you think of the product rather like a person. Every person has a personality. So with Shopify, we can see the personality is real, proactive, dynamic, and they also act as a guide. With Duolingo, I think Duolingo is popular for how they interact with their users, with their playful words, with their expressive words. They are also embracing their wordly. And this is seen across all their channels in Duolingo. So the voice is constant. The voice can't change. It is their personality. It is who the product is. Then the tone. Okay, you can see moods may change, but personality remains the same. Now, the tone is subject to context and, is always aware of people's emotions. So when you're dealing with tone, you always need to have empathy as to help you adopt the right tone needed to speak to people at every point of interaction between users and the product. In the example below, we can see this is a pregnancy test, app, and it comes back positive, and they adopted a yes, congratulations, pregnant. It might not be bad, at the first glance, it might be okay, it's a good thing, you're pregnant. But then if you consider your users, the different user groups that you have, what if your user isn't excited to have a baby? What if your user didn't want to have a baby? You sounding excited, kind of dissociates you from the user, because they no longer feel connected to you. They feel like they're imposing probably the societal expectations of on them, because them to be happy. Oh, they're pregnant. And the words, the tone you adopt can either exclude or include people. On the other side, we have 4 dimensions of voice. Okay, am I back? I think my internet went off.
You're cutting in and out just a little bit, but I think we ultimately get to hear you.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so on the end, we have 4 dimensions of voice. And this was given by Nelson Norman Group, the top leader in user experience field. So each of these tones can be applied at different points in the user journey, depending on their needs and emotions at that point in time. So while the voice remains constant, you can have, let's say, Duolingo that is playful, as an expressive, happy voice. There will be instances where they can choose to either be funny or be serious, be respectful or irreverent, enthusiastic or matter of fact. And this depends on, where the user is at that particular point in time. For example, let's say there's an error message or you're dealing with privacy concerns. It's not the time to be funny, even though your brand voice, is being all playful and excitable. It's the time to be serious. So your tone fluctuates according to users' emotions and the context in which they use the app and product. So we're moving to UX principles in UX writing. There's this common phrase, everyone says UX writing is design. And we agree with that because UX writing doesn't exist on its own. It's based off UX principles. It's connected with UX design, UX research, and content strategy. And according to UX Design Institute, we have it written here that they are first and foremost UX professionals. So based off of the fact that UX writing is based on user experience, there are certain principles and concepts that apply to the process behind what we write. And one of such principles is the design thinking. This is a process that helps all UXers design good products that are actually useful to people. And when it comes to user experience writing, they also help us. We can apply them, we can apply empathy. We can also learn to define, ideate, prototype, and test. In user experience writing, when we're empathizing, it helps us understand who our users are, their motivations, goals, needs, and behavior. This is the fundamental foundation behind user experience writing. You need to be able to empathize with your users, and you do this via research. You know who they are, you carry out usability testing, you carry out survey, you observe them. All this is to gather enough data to know who you are writing for. Then you define, you analyze and identify user pain points, then align them with business goals. Yes, we are advocating for the users, but yes, we also work for companies. So we need to find out different pain points they experience at each point in time and find a way to solve them while also solving our business goals. Then ideate, we come up with different copy solutions for users' problems. The pain points that can be solved by what we write and where we provide certain content within their user flow. This is not the point where we may try to be perfect with our words, with our writing, with the copy that we present. It's just the period where we float a lot of ideas, we float a lot of copy solutions, float a lot of sentences that can solve that problem. At this point, we're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to solve, a problem. Then we prototype, we put this copy within working designs. You see how they look on the screen. Do they fit, the real estate available? Is the text too long? Is the text too short? Can some things be communicated via visuals, via designs? Like, you don't need to write out certain things in words. You can communicate them either via sound or what people see. Then we test. Testing is also, applicable when it comes to user experience writing. In testing, we have different ways. For instance, if you have a team, you're working with UX researchers, you can incorporate it with their usability testing or their A/B testing. But if you're working solo, you can also still test your copy, with things like Hemingway app to check the readability. You can also check legibility. You can also share your words audience, people that you have access to, maybe your friends, your family, and see if they're able to actually complete their journey with the copy that you've written, if there are any points where they don't understand what is expected of them. And another concept is the inclusive design and accessibility, which is a deliberate design process to create products that can be accessed and used by people of all backgrounds and abilities. In user experience writing, we also work based on this concept of inclusive design and accessibility. We can do this in certain ways. For instance, being inclusive in UX writing could mean being conscious of the kind of language that we use. We're aware that people have different language levels, people have different cultural contexts, people may not necessarily get certain jokes or certain phrases or certain idioms. So we try to accommodate every user type and every user group. Then being inclusive also means being up to date with your language, and its impact on the current society we live in. Nowadays, I think a popular example is, being able to accommodate different gender types or identities. It's no longer the era of, asking people what's your gender, male or female. We have to take into consideration current language, happenings and accommodate different gender types or identities. This way you don't exclude anybody. Then when it comes to accessibility, for user experience writing, it means being aware of the different ways that people may use the product. For instance, if you're writing for desktop, if you write a product that's a web-based app that can be accessible via desktop, you might be tempted to probably, write a microcopy that says, click on the bag, for example. This is all right, if you're dealing with people that use the app with their mouse, so they're able to click. But what of people who use screen readers? What of people who use their mobile phones? Such language, it doesn't apply to them. So we have to always be conscious of the type of words that we use. Then another way we also incorporate accessibility is in the alt text. Do we just describe the images, or do we say what the images can do? We describe the images in a way that actually helps people who can't see such images. So when we're writing, we have to take all this into consideration. So now, how to apply user journey map in user experience writing. The journey map, first of all, is a visual trip of the user across the solution. It considers not only the steps that a user takes, but also their feelings, pain points, and moments of delight. The user journey, it helps us to empathize with users. It gives us the context that we need to write the right copy at the right time that will improve users' experience. And some of the things we will need, we'll need the user persona, we will need the context, we will need the user flow, we will need in-house research documents. For user persona, it's just so we can have a holistic understanding of our audience, to know who they are, to know the context in which you're using the app, to know their motivations, feelings, pain points. We also understand how they use it, where they are, how they operate such products in their natural environments. Then for the user flow is for us to know, the different steps that they have to take to achieve their goals through the product. Then the in-house research documents is to guide us, on our voice, our style, copy tone, and the objectives. Yeah, important to know the objectives of each screen and each product. Then for optimal results, the user journey mapping should be backed by research. We collaborate with internal stakeholders and UX researchers, if any. We can also carry out research by ourselves via social listening, secondary research, or surveys. For social listening, it involves us, visiting forums, checking out reviews, customer service, social media, to know what people say about your products and how they say it. So it will guide us on the language that we will use when writing the copy. So this two examples, two types of user journey. We can have the macro user journey. We can also have the micro user journey. Now, when we map the user journey for the entire product experience, which is the macro journey, it helps us, stay focused on the broad objectives each stage of interaction is meant to achieve. For example, we have an e-commerce website. These are the steps the user takes. The user opens the website, finds a product, places their order, checks out. The objective could be, when they open the website, you want them to register, you want them to sign up. When they find the product, probably you want to, sell, you want to promote a particular product, you want to increase the sales of a particular product. In placing an order, you want to, reduce bounce rates. You want people to actually complete their conversions and check out. For micro user journey, we look at each screen, and we ensure that every content on that screen actually is well aligned with the objectives, and they're all well thought out, that every word on that screen serves a purpose. And we do this by considering what the customer is thinking, what the customer is feeling, the copy we need to solve the customer's pain points, and the tone of voice that is needed here. So this is like a broad example for user journey. We have our context here. Amy urgently needs to replace her laptop accessories, so she visits Happy Rich website. While Happy Rich's objective is to register more users. Ideally, we should have our user persona, we should have, a more in-depth objective and other research documents to actually guide our user journey. But this is just an example, so I think that will still work. So let's look at the actions. What does the customer do? This is based off the micro user journey in the previous screen. for the e-commerce website. So the first thing, proceeds to checkout, fills in details, reviews details, makes payment. What is the customer thinking? Here we have the objective of the website, which is to register more users. And like most e-commerce websites, the point where they try to get people to register to sign up on their website is usually when they want to check out. So we have the same scenario here. So the customer is thinking, she has proceeded to check out, and now we have like a pop-up to register. So she's thinking, okay, must I create an account? Or must I fill in my email? If there's an option available for me to check out as a guest, will I get spammed, with promo mails if I do give them my email? For filling the details, she's worried about, okay, where can I find my coupon code? What's the delivery timeline? And other, information that she might need to fill in. That how is she sure she's filling in the right thing that's needed? Then reviewing the details. She's wondering, oh, she has spotted an error. Can she make some changes here without, having to start the process all over again? Okay, are there taxes? Are they already included? Or is this something that, just pop up later on? Then in making payments, she's wondering, can I pay in installments? Are refunds available? Will I get a receipt? And if so, where will it be my email? Will I get a text message confirming my payment? So these are some possible thoughts that could pass through the user's mind when they are going through this user journey of checking out of an e-commerce website. They're just assumptions for now, since we are not working with actual data. So now we consider what the customer is feeling, in thinking, do I need to register? She's uncertain. Do I actually need to go through the stress of registering, or should I just forget about it? In filling the details, she's cautious, she's careful about the information she's putting in, she's checking her eyes, she's crossing her T's to be sure that everything is spick and span. In reviewing the details, she's also cautious, but you can see she's kind of content because she has achieved something. She has finished filling in her details. She's closer to achieving her goal of ordering the laptop accessory. So she's content. Then in making payments, she's anxious. Making payments actually, brings up a lot of anxiety amongst people because you're parting with your money. So you need to be extra careful, and be sure that, no mistakes and everything is worth it. So the other things are left: the copy needed to solve the customer's pain point, then the tone of voice needed to make the customer feel better. So for the copy, for the creating an account, we need to tell the user, okay, so and so are the benefits of creating this account. We have to state why some certain info are needed, like the email, why you need the email. You also need to have copy that eases privacy concerns. You can state, oh, we will not spam you, because, this fear can actually be the difference between someone registering on your website and actually, abandoning the whole process. So for filling in the details, the copy we need, we need guiding copy to help users find important info and fill out the form. We can make use of tooltips, here in this process. We can also, use informative copy to show users how they can get their delivery. You answer all the questions, because UX writing is all about anticipating users' questions and answering them as best as you can. So your job is to actually provide enough information that they need to fill out in order for their delivery to work out well. It could be, let's say, it takes 5 days to deliver. It takes 3 days. You can also state the cost. Let everything be upfront, nothing to hide. So we'll move on to the reviews details. Here we give a detailed order summary. We're cross-checking everything that has been ordered. We'll be sure to make it clear that so and so taxes have been added, or your discount has been added. This is the final price, and then we also make clear and visible options for editing. In this case, you can actually collaborate with UX designer, to say how to highlight some certain texts that are important for users to know. Then in making payments, We have copy to make it known that, okay, there are different payment methods available, and then you also provide all the necessary information about them. You may state that, okay, if you use this particular payment method, you get so and so discount, or it comes at a lower price, or whatever. Then you have clear copy stating the company's refund policy. Some companies might employ dark patterns where you hide certain information from people. Like, for instance, if there is no refund, like if there are no refunds available, it's better to be upfront about it than to hide and pretend that, oh, we're not going to let users know about this. Users will just be confused. They will want to reach out to someone to understand, okay, what they're getting themselves into. So user experience is all about considering our users. And by stating the company's policy, we actually alleviate one of their fears. Then we have copy to let users know the post-order process. This is where we can state, oh, they will get, their receipt immediately in their email, or they will get, they can track their order through their email. You can reach out to customer service. It's not closing, the door to users. Yes, they've made their payments, but the experience doesn't stop there. You actually need to guide users till they get their final, their final goal. In this case, it is still they receive their laptop accessory. So the tone of voice, with user experience writing here, we may have found the right copy that will solve their user pain. But if we don't use the right tone, we still run the risk of not showing enough empathy and not improving the user experience. We might even worsen the user experience. So for them registering when they want to check out, it's best to be straightforward and upfront about, okay, the benefits, why this info is needed. And then you can also inject some, personality, some life to kind of encourage people, to register. Then in filling in the details, we have to be helpful and conversational. Every text, every microcopy on that screen should actually serve the purpose of guiding users through completing the details, the forms that they need to fill out. Then in reviewing the details, your voice tone just has to be detailed. It's not necessarily the place where you kind of inject a lot of life that distracts users from the purpose. Here, they're cross-checking. Here, they're trying to be sure that everything that they ordered is right, that the delivery address is right, the billing address is right. So by focusing on, what the user wants to achieve at that point in time, it helps guide our writer, and actually helps improve the user experience. For the final step is making payments. Of course, you're dealing with money. It's not the time to, crack jokes or necessarily be too, excited in a way that can maybe cause worries, that people will be like, okay, are you actually serious? Can I trust this company with my money? Because you are parting with money. So you have to be matter of fact. You have to state things as they are. It costs this, it will take this long. Everything you need, everything they need to know. Your tone just has to be upfront about it. So this is just like an example of how I in particular use the user journey to guide my user experience writing, because I found that in situations where maybe I don't go through this process, I might still come back. I'll still find myself coming back to creating this form while the design has started. Because if you just work on the screens as they are without having kind of like a solid framework, it's easy for you to lose track of the objectives that you're meant to, achieve, and it's easy to lose track of users' concerns at each point in time. So here are some pros and cons of user journey mapping for UX writing. Some pros, obviously, it keeps users at the forefront of your copy and design decisions, because you've pinpointed, you've reduced the user journey down to a screen level. So at every point in time, at every copy that you write, you're considering the users. You're keeping them at the forefront of your copy and even design decisions, because like I said, UX writing, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. you work with designers. Some things you might need to communicate to users. You don't need words, you need visuals, you need designs, you need audio. And then you collaborate with users to get this done. So every design decision is, it prioritizes the users when you use user journey. Then another positive is that it helps align company objectives with the user experience. Then we have grounded flexibility for design iterations. Design itself is an iterative process. There are different changes being made at any point in time. New research data can come up and you have to go back to the drawing board. But you having a user journey helps keep you grounded. So even when changes are made to the design, you know what content is needed on each screen. Then user journey helps you identify points in the design where user experience can be improved, and by extension helps you collaborate better with designers. When you consider the users, their pain points, what they want to achieve, and the company's objectives, when you use the user journey, you actually find out that, okay, some certain designs that may have been put on the screen by maybe UX designer don't actually work with the content that is needed at that point in time. So you can voice out your concerns. This is where you also become the user's advocate. Then the user journey also can be used for present and future UX reviews. You want to assess a product. You want to check if it's functioning the way it's supposed to function, if it's actually fulfilling its objectives, if users are satisfied with the product. By mapping out, the different steps they take, considering what they're thinking, what they're feeling, the copy that's needed, you can cross-check with what you actually have within the product and what should be, and identify the gaps. So it's useful for present and future UX reviews. And I'll say the major disadvantage is that it takes time and extra effort because everything is based off research. You actually need to go through documents, collaborate with your UX researcher to be sure of the user persona. You need to speak with users to actually understand them, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. It's not just assumptions. You actually need to, map your journey based on facts. And well, this could take time. In also writing the copy on your screens, it's something that you might have to do before you start the actual work of writing the copy. So dedicating time to get this done before the actual work might seem like a lot of work, might seem like a huge task, but the rewards are, high risk, high reward. That's how user journey mapping is. So the conclusion, user experience, has core UX principles that if neglected, reduces it to just words, not different from copywriting. It's based off the meaning is in its name itself, user experience writing, the user experience. So it is necessary to actually have a broad understanding of user experience, user experience design, and user experience research. You don't need to go in depth, just to understand how they operate, the tools they need, what their process is like, because you as a UX writer, you are the overall advocate. You look at the end-to-end user journey. You map out everything from the first moment the product communicates with users till they achieve their goal. You are the one, who is advocating for them, because a product is not just its design. What makes people use the product is the content, and you are in charge of the content. So you need to understand the different people that are working on that product. You need to understand the UX designer. You need to understand the UX researcher. So the UX writing role anticipates and answers users' questions beforehand. This just highlights the fact that you need to have empathy. Your work needs to be based off empathy. You're placing yourself in your user's shoes. And it also involves you being aware of your own biases, because everyone has a bias, because we all have different backgrounds, different life experiences. So we might see things from different worldviews. So you being a UX writer means, first of all, owning up to that fact that, yes, we have biases, but then we observe, we are open to listen to our users, we are open to learning more about our users in order to know what they need, anticipate what they need, and answer all the questions that they could have beforehand. Then working with user journey map takes your writing to a personal level. In this case, your copy will not only guide the user, it will work with them every step of the way. This is because, you've concentrated, you've brought your level down to each screen, each word serving a purpose. Then effective copy is always backed by research. We can have, a user journey map like what we just did, and maybe I can decide to, go design, what's the word, an e-commerce website based off of my assumptions, and it would fail horribly, because it's just based on my assumptions. So it needs to be backed by data. It is what will make your copy effective. So, oh yeah, last one, it's important to always test your copy. Testing is what, cross-checks our assumptions. You put your assumptions to the crossfire, what you said, right? Are people actually, scared to register? Are people actually interested in refund policies? By testing your copy rather, you're able to find out, oh, this content is not needed here. This copy can be improved, and generally just improve the user experience. Okay, so just to wrap up, user experience is more than user experience writing, rather. It's more than just, words. It's more than just copy. It's a whole process. It's a large process actually, because you need to understand everything about user experience writing. You are the one who carries, the user forward. You're the one who prioritizes the user. Yes, user experience researchers do, UX designers do, but then you are the one dealing with content. You're the one dealing with what users, what they need to achieve in the product. So you are the main, I'll say you are the main person in the product design team. So yeah, I think I'll just wrap up there. And if anyone has, any questions or anything that needs to be clarified, yeah, I'll be happy to help.
Thank you so much, Uzoma.
Thank you.
It was a wonderful presentation. So much practical advice, and also talking about the kind of soft side of it is like why you would do this and how you can talk about prioritizing the work. You got some plus ones and some cheering going on in the chat. And I also have some questions in a parking lot sheet over here. And I've also heard the term garden plot, which I like. So I'm gonna call it a garden plot. And I can jump into these questions if no one else wants to either come off of mute or type them in the chat. So I'll give it a few seconds here just to see if anyone comes off mute. Okay, so Amy P asks, they are new to the field, and how do you become a UX writer? What is a good background to have?
Okay, first off, welcome to the field. I always welcoming new people. So a good background to have, I'll say basically writing. I think that's like the most basic background you need to have. We have a lot of people transitioning from different roles into user experience writing. We have probably, journalists or even roles that are not related to writing. Literally, anyone can become a user experience writer. You just need to work on your writing and understand design. I think that's important because when I started, I asked around a lot. And even though a lot of people, made suggestions that you need to go through like a UX design school or UX design course, but once you have a good understanding, a good foundation of how your user experience works, and then you can write, then we tie the 2 and 2 together and voila, it works. Does that answer the question?
Looks like it did. Thank you very much. And that actually ties pretty well into one of the other questions that we had, which was, what is a simple way to get started with UX writing? So say you are a user experience designer, or you're maybe a product manager who's interested in starting to do UX writing work, but you've never done it before. What's kind of one simple way to get started with it?
Realistically, the best way is to start writing the copy. You start writing the copy for screens. You outline, what you need to communicate to people, what each screen, the content of each screen. You first outline, okay, this content is what is needed. Then you just basically write the copy. I don't know. I don't think I'm sure how to answer a UX designer wanting to work on UX copy. I think you just start writing UX copy. Obviously, as a UX designer, you already have, basic skills like empathy, and you have a knowledge of UX design processes. So practically that's what you need. Okay, you can brush up on UX writing courses, take prompts to kind of help make your writing tighter, but that's it, I think.
Just get started, and then, like you were saying, like test it, see how it goes. I think that, like you were saying, empathy to have the best interests of your users at heart, and then also to bring in those users to test what you wrote and really factor in their feedback, right? Like that's how you'll know that you're effective in your context.
Yes.
Right. So then there was one of the questions in here. What does it look like to test your UX copy?
Okay. I'll say there are two ways. First is when, I think resources, let's say when you have the resources or you're working with UX researchers, you can do this through prototypes. You have A/B testing, you bring out, two different types of copy, probably for the same content, for the same purpose, like probably a sign-up page, two different types of sign-up pages with different content, different word choices, different copy choices. And then you test them, you send them out to users, and then, they give their feedback. This is when you have resources and when you're collaborating with UX designers. On the other hand, if you're going solo, it's more of you conducting a secondary research, you knowing who your users are. Then when you know who they are, you kind of identify their language levels. You check Hemingway app for language levels to ensure that it's easy to understand. You also check if your content, if your copy is going to be read by, people from different backgrounds, and localization might be a thing. So you try to make your writing as easy to understand as possible. You can also test, I mentioned sharing with your friends, sharing with family, presenting the different copy choices. Then practically basic, there's accessibility guidelines, there's writing and content accessibility guidelines. I think they're available online. You can use them to check your copy. There are also, they're also heuristic, assessments. You can check, okay, does this copy solve this problem? There's a form, actually. I think I'll share it with you if I can find it quickly, that you can use to check and test your copy. So you have, if you're working with people, you have usability testing, A/B testing. If you're working solo, you have, your Hemingway app and the likes. So. Does that answer the question? Let me check for the form.
And then while you do that, I'll pull up the next question, unless someone else wants to type one in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that. And I'll also share one of my favorite resources for heuristics is just from the Nielsen Norman Group. If they have, if you're kind of getting started with heuristics, what they mean, and want some quick examples of what they are. Oh, and I have two questions from Mona. So let me take a look at these. All right. Okay, yes. So how do you introduce the concept of UX design and accessibility writing to to an organization that maybe isn't familiar with UX or marketing social media work?
Okay, in that instance, you'll start by highlighting the benefits, of user experience to the company, and then, sorry, what's the first thing you mentioned? I think I've forgotten.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to read the question at the same time as like understanding it. So how do you basically introduce the concept of UX design and accessibility writing, maybe in an organization where there's been some pushback or just a lack of understanding about it?
Well, in this case, I just think you have to pull up your sleeves, and really be the user's advocate. If you don't mind, you can actually carry out some, basic research to actually highlight the fact that working with accessibility in mind, user experience in mind, will be of benefit to the company in the long run. When you have, such arguments per se backed with data, things they can't dispute that is actually important, actually useful, then I think it would be easier to win them over. So, sleeves, yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah, roll those sleeves. All right. And then, okay, so one of the other ones was, can we pick a random website or app and create a mock-up UX writing copy to use that as an example to, well, hold on. To use that as an example to demonstrate your learning or knowledge when getting it. Oh, I understand. So maybe this is when you're looking for a job and you don't have experience to share in your portfolio. So is it common or acceptable to use someone else's website or app and use that as an example to maybe as like a case study?
Of course, that's awesome. Actually, that's the best way to start. Actually, you bring up examples, people already, published websites, and you do a case study on them. You see how to improve them. It might also be useful or helpful to try to understand if it's publicly available information. You try to understand what the company was trying to achieve with that product. Then you see if it's actually fulfilling its purpose and if UX writing can solve that. So you can do a case study on how you can improve that particular company's product. And it works. It shows that you are also aware that companies have objectives, they have goals, they have KPIs they have to meet, and you are aware that user experience is also great. So you carry out case studies on such companies' websites or products shows that, yeah, I'll say that you're ready for the field and it can help publicize you. Hope that worked.
Great.
I found the form, but I think
Okay.
don't know if I'm having difficulties sharing it. Let me see.
See everybody being very nice to me. So thank you. I just said I was a little tired today. So I really appreciate everyone joining in and engaging in the chat. I don't always get to enjoy such a lively chat. So thanks everybody for participating. And then if you can't share it, Uzoma, I can always share it with the recap when the recording comes out as well.
Oh, that would be awesome. I think that works.
Okay, so then I do have a few more questions if you have some time.
Okay, shoot. Let's go.
Okay. So then when we're looking at being an engineer, like a software engineer, how can they apply UX writing principles in their work?
Nice. That's nice actually, because I think that's a great question, because a lot of UX writers have problems communicating with the back end and the language they use. So as software writer is basically to look at things from the user's perspective, try to speak in as much plain English as possible. I think software engineer, you're dealing with the back end, maybe like correct me if I'm wrong, but you're dealing with like probably error, like back-end errors and the likes.
Mm,
Don't know if I'm wrong or right on that. But
yeah.
when you want to incorporate UX writing into that, it's more about speaking in plain English than the code or jargon that, basically just software engineers might understand. Just trying to speak plain English, I think that works. That works great.
Great. And then what do you do if UX writing isn't part of your job description, but you know it's important and you just don't know how to start doing it or have someone else start doing it?
Let me understand. It's not part of your job description, but no one is working on it, or
Yeah.
there's already like a design team working on it, or
Yeah.
okay,
It's not
if no one,
yeah, no one else is doing it.
well, I think that's the case of, communicating to the company that you want to step up your responsibilities. You want to handle, customer facing texts. You can just volunteer yourself. Yeah, you can volunteer yourself to write it. And, after a while, you have end of year reviews, and you can add it to you can use it to back up your case for, promotion or increased pay. Yeah.
Great. Good tips. And then if you are a UX writer, but you are on projects that don't account for that time, how do you create the time, or should you?
Yes, it's important to create time. I think this is where a bulk of the UX writing work is actually done. It's a lot of tug of war, between the designers, the product manager, and trying to let them know that certain things are important. You can't just, take copy out of the air and paste on design screens. So you will need to communicate to the company, to stakeholders that, some certain processes have, like you have to go through some certain processes. You need to actually take time to get some things done. On the other end, it could also mean you taking time out of your own personal time, your own free time, to kind of catch up on the pace. But it is, a tug of war. Communicating to stakeholders that, this is important, and you actually need a little bit more time to actually get the right things done. Because if you don't get the right things done and the product doesn't fulfill its objectives, ultimately you will come back and start all over again. So you can tell the company, okay, you're saving time, you'll save costs, and so on. But it's a bulk of the work that UX writers do, fighting for users that you need time to get things right.
My computer froze up for just a second, but I actually did hear you just fine. So I was worried for a second that I wasn't going to be able to unmute. Yeah, fight the right fight. And then kind of trying to figure out how to phrase this one the right way. It's like similar to the last question when you don't really have time, but when you're under tight deadlines, how do you generate kind of UX copy that's good enough?
Under tight deadlines, then I think we would have to trade off some things. It's different circumstances. We would not like, to trade off key aspects like working with data. But if you're tight for time, it's more or less you speeding up the process. For instance, if some sensitive data are not available, you just have to have, enough information about the users to make what you think will be the right assumptions. Then you work with such assumptions to create your copy. So, and that's the only way you can beat time, by making, well-informed assumptions. There will still be assumptions, but they are well-informed assumptions that will help you speed up time.
And maybe that's easier once you've been in the field for a while and you can get
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you fully understand the users,
Sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I said, and then you fully understand, users, where they're coming from. Like you've interacted with them, read a lot of documents, so you can make well-informed assumptions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That comes with time, I suppose.
It does.
And then, let's see, we covered some of these. How do you know when UX writing is good enough?
UX writing is good enough when it serves its purpose, like when users can achieve the goals they set out to achieve. That is the basic, metric that you use to judge a good copy and a bad copy. If users are having difficulties achieving their goals, then that highlights, okay, there's something broken in either design or you communicating what they need to do. So good copy is practically when users can use the product to fulfill, their goals. There's no such thing in a way as perfect copy. It's just effective copy. And, with time, people evolve, products evolve. So you will still have to come back to make changes. It's constant. Making changes is constant. So at every point in time, having a copy that works is the best copy at that point in time.
Having copy that works is the best copy at that time. Did I get that right?
Yes. Spot on.
That was a good quote. And then there's no such thing as perfect copy, just effective. That's great. And then let's see. Can UX writing apply to writing user stories on Scrum teams?
User stories, in a way, I think there's already like a concept of user stories. This is you like trying to understand the users and what they want to achieve with the products and how they use the products. So I'm not so sure how UX writing comes into that, because that in itself is like a tool built off research, before UX design. It's also like a byproduct alongside user journey mapping. So I'm not sure about that, because user experience writing is practically you trying to communicate with users. You trying to, help users achieve their goals through through a product. So I can't really say about user stories.
For Scrum, okay. And then similar on like kind of this, how does UX writing fit into other fields of work? What are the differences and similarities between advertising, customer experience, and UX writing?
Okay, advertising is all about you, trying to sell the product. You want people to come in. You don't necessarily, I think it's right for me to say, you don't necessarily care so much about the users. You just want to sell your product. Yeah, but user experience writing cares about the product. It's built off what do the customers need. First of all, you are trying to attend to those needs through the best possible way, through your copy. So advertising is all about selling yourself, selling the product, regardless of, whether the users need it or not. While user experience writing is, it focuses on the needs of people and communicates to them that, okay, with this product, you can solve your needs.
Okay. And then is there kind of a pretty close relationship between customer experience and user experience writing?
Customer experience, to the best of my knowledge, is actually close with user journey mapping. No, customer experience, it's about, okay, how users relate with the entirety of the product and its company, the different channels the company, communicates with users. It could start probably with an advertisement of, let's say, a phone, advertisement of a phone, and the users they Google it, they check reviews, they go to the website, they try to buy it. That in itself is a customer experience, the full end-to-end process of them being aware of the product and them getting the product. And it's closer to user journey than to advertising copy and user experience writing.
Okay. And then this is the last one that I have, and so I'll try and keep an eye on the chat and see if there's anything else. Can you still hear me okay?
Can I still?
Yeah, okay. My screens keep freezing up and I'm not sure. So yeah, just let me know if you can't hear me. How do you move forward when you are working with stakeholders who disagree on what the UX writing should say?
At that point, well, let's say comes down to your human interaction. If they're adamant about how a particular copy should sound or say, and you know that if you push further, your job is on the line, then I think at that point it's best to, unfortunately concede because, well, it's your job on the line. But if, there's still wiggle room, you're good, with negotiating with people, you're good with, give and take. Okay, you tell them, oh, this is going to help you. And, you have people that can actually fight for you in other rooms, probably the manager and the rest, then you can still push on. But if your job is on the line, then please, I would advise you to concede, But on the other hand, you can probably write a case study on how, UX writing can help, push that product even better. Maybe they'll come across it and be like, oh, okay, we should have listened,
Yeah. Yeah. Like maybe sharing some of your like research if you've done it and run a study, or, what you would do if you could research it.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully you're in a setting where you can do that research, but yeah, if someone's really opinionated, maybe not so much.
Exactly.
Just writing up your resume. Okay. So then I have one other question. It's a little bit off topic, but if you have an answer for this, Uzoma, just let us know.
Okay.
So how, okay, I'm going to phrase it in general because you're in Nigeria, but how is the UX field's relationship with people with ADHD? And then the question was asked in the setting of Portland. How welcome are people with ADHD in UX? But in your experience, Uzoma, maybe I can broaden the question to like, how have you seen cognitive differences appear in your work?
Okay. You're relating to people with ADHD trying to get into the field, or UX copy accommodating people with ADHD? Which of the instances?
Maybe more of the former, but if we have time for the latter, then maybe we could cover both.
Okay. On the former, I'll say right now, okay, my space is not so much as open to user experience writing as its own field. We're still trying to push that forward. So I don't think, I can speak with for people with ADHD because the field itself isn't fully recognized here. Only few, companies actually recognize that UX writing deserves to be its own field and not necessarily a designer just drafting the copy needed for the product.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then how do you account maybe for people with ADHD in your work as a UX writer?
Yeah, so this is where, accessibility, writing with accessibility and inclusivity comes into play. There are guidelines. I think there are many guidelines available online, which you can use to actually cross-check your writing to accommodate people with dyslexia, people with ADHD. These are checks that usually should be pioneered by, I think, a usability manager. I've forgotten the name of the role, but there's a role, where we have people championing the inclusivity and accessibility courses within companies. But on your own, when you're dealing with your copy, it would be good to look at, general guidelines, world guidelines, writing guidelines, like the WCAG. And I have one on dyslexia. I'm not sure I can pull it up now, but there are guidelines to ensure that your writing actually accommodates everyone. So it's just a matter of you searching and finding and then incorporating them into your writing.
Great. And then let's see. So just to answer the other part of the question is, how is the local Portland UX field relationship? Portland specifically, I have seen is very open-minded and very focused on inclusivity, very like accessibility forward. So if you are new to the UX field and you want to get started, I think there's a lot of really friendly people that are looking forward to more people talking about this and doing this work. If you're around Portland and you can commute there for like some events or networking opportunities, I think that you'd find a lot of people who would love to welcome you in. I can't speak for other communities so much, but I imagine at least through like Women Who Code chapters, our organization is pretty open-minded. There's PDX WIT, and yeah, there's groups all around the country, just people that I'm aware of, and even the world, Uzoma in Nigeria, and that are talking about this stuff. So people are out there. You just gotta maybe, something I found helpful is like knowing what my values are and then leading with those versus assuming that someone else doesn't have those values and doesn't want to talk about it. Because I think people probably know what the right thing is to do, and then maybe they don't. They maybe assume you don't, want to bring it up. So I think just making sure that people know that you value it, that's at least somewhere to start, if it's important to you. Yeah, and PDX, yeah. So PDX is the name of the airport in Portland. So that's there's PDX or CSEA for Seattle. So sometimes I'll say PDX instead of Portland. Sorry, I know that's a UX writing to use acronyms. So, oops, I already broke a rule. Thank you, Sherry. Very helpful folks in the chat today. Did anyone else have any other questions? Or maybe Uzoma, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I think I'm good. And I have just shared the scorecard for like testing copy. I've been finally able to share it. Yeah, so.
And how did you?
I'm good.
Are you sharing it through the Zoom chat or should I look at my email? Oh, here it is.
Your email, I think it's a PDF.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I can share that. I'll share it in the chat and then I'll also share it out when the recording comes out. Here we go. All right. So that is a copy of a scorecard for evaluating UX content. And it looks very practical and useful. I might actually use this like tomorrow.
Awesome.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, I have a question about joining or connecting on LinkedIn. So I'll go ahead and share mine. Would you like me to share yours as well, Uzoma, in the chat?
Yeah, that works. That's okay.
Okay. And let me grab that real quick. Oopsie. Went to a different Uzoma's profile. There you are. And I guess we can wrap it up there. So it was so great to see everyone engaging in this chat and see everyone's names. If you've been with Women Who Code events before, welcome back. And thank you so much to Uzoma Ibekwe tonight for speaking for us and answering so much of the Q&A. I hope that you all have a great rest of your evening, and we hope to see you again soon.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks,
for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.